Chris Mannix for the crossover alongside Rowan Nadkarni and Howard Beck. Guys, it is officially trade season with the March 25th trade deadline just around the corner. A lot of teams out there right now looking to upgrade their rosters for the stretch run. Rohan, give me a potential trade that you like that would help a team.
So, Chris, I'm looking at a team that made the finals last year and is looking to upgrade their power forward spot. I'm going with the Miami Heat, trying to acquire PJ Tucker from the Houston Rockets. I believe the way I have this trade set up right now is PJ would go to Miami. Houston would get Mo Harkless on an expiring one-year deal, Chris Silva, a young backup big, and a future second-round pick. Here's why I think this deal works for both sides. Miami, it's been a little shaky at the power forward spot this season. Kelly Olynyk giving them some good minutes, as has Andre Iguodala. But both those guys can be played off the floor to an extent in a playoff series. I think Tucker is a two-way guy. He hasn't had a great year in Houston, but certainly he has the playoff experience and has proven that he can be a valuable postseason performer. I think he would help Miami a lot. Give them some defensive minutes in the postseason while still being able to shoot threes. Houston, by the way, would get Chris Silva, who I think is a pretty valuable backup big. He's not a star or a potential huge prospect by any means, but I think he's given Miami some valuable minutes and given a consistent role on a team. And in Houston, it's probably going to be rebuilding in the near future. I think it makes sense for both sides.
Yeah, the trade I'd like to see also in the East involving two Eastern Conference teams, and that would be the Toronto Raptors sending Kyle Lowry home to Philadelphia for a package built around Matisse Thybulle as the key piece going back, Shake Milton, Mike Scott, Danny Green, that's to just fulfill cap rules, and a first-round pick to make it worth the Raptors' while. Look, I know this is a tough one for Toronto to give up on Kyle Lowry, who might be the most important player in franchise history, but he's up there in years. He's a free agent at the end of the season. I don't know that this team is going to be bringing him back, and it's time to pivot to the youth, to Van Vliet and Siakam and that generation. So if you don't know that or don't think that Lowry is a piece of this long term, it's time to flip him and get some value, add some more young pieces, guys like Matisse Thybulle and Shake Milton, and if they can get it, a first-round pick out of the Sixers to keep building on that new young core.
Right now, the executives I talk to, all eyes are kind of on Boston and what the Celtics are going to do with that $28.5 million trade exception. They like Harrison Barnes a lot. They could get him. They like Jeremy Grant a lot. They're not going to get him. But if they don't get either one of those players, why not turn to old friend Al Horford and see if you could pry Al Horford out of Oklahoma City? I say pry. I don't think it would take that much. I think you'd have to throw in a Tristan Thompson to make the money work because the Celtics are hard capped right now, and maybe a heavily protected first-round pick to act as a sweetener. Al Horford, look, he has redeemed himself this year with Oklahoma City. He has largely erased the mess of last season with Philadelphia. He's embraced a role at center again. He's been effective from beyond the three-point line. He's been a leader in that locker room, and he has given Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a stretch five to play off of, which is what Oklahoma City wanted when they acquired Al Horford. If you're Boston, he slips right in, into a rotation, to a team, into a system, into a bunch of teammates that he has already played with. So if you're the Celtics and you strike out on option A and option B, Al Horford to me is a nice option C. Now, Howard, quickly, I want to push back on your ridiculous trade, because why, if you're Philadelphia, if you're the number one team in the Eastern Conference, why would you blow up your roster in that way? Granted, the guys you're talking about are not necessarily, top 6, 7 pieces, but that's a pretty big shakeup of a roster that's playing pretty good basketball right now. Explain to me why you would just throw all those pieces into the mix to go get Kyle Lowry.
Well, it's not a blow up, and as long as I'm not dealing Embiid, Simmons, or Tobias Harris, I don't think I'm messing with my core. Thybulle's a nice young player. He's been useful to them. He's a great wing defender. Three-point shot kind of comes and goes. In Kyle Lowry, I'm getting a guy who I know can win now. And if there's one thing we know about the Sixers right now, and certainly about Daryl Morey, it's that the time is now. You got to be all in. And this team has a chance to win it all this season. And if Kyle Lowry increases your odds by a few percentage points, you do it. He brings leadership, he brings defense, he brings playmaking, he brings clutch three-point shooting. And this Sixers team, I think we can all agree, still needs somebody who you can put the ball in the hands of down the stretch of a game and say, go get me something if you can't hit the open man. Ben Simmons is a great playmaker, but we know he's not going to take the open shot or sometimes any shot. Kyle Lowry alleviates that issue, and Ben Simmons is then that much more dangerous as a slasher, a guy roaming behind the defense. So I think Kyle Lowry elevates them just that much more. And this team, the time is now.
Yeah, if I can just
It is now.
defend Howard here real quick, Chris, if you don't mind, his proposal is ridiculous. The Sixers, as good as they've been, have struggled. I think at the end of close games, at the end of fourth quarters, in the playoffs, I think that's going to be a serious issue. Their half court offense is still, I don't think, built for the postseason. I think Lowry could help alleviate a lot of those concerns. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to pick up someone who they can trust in those situations. Embiid, as great as he's been, it's not always easy to get him the ball in the spots that are most comfortable for him in the last 2 minutes of a close game. And I think Lowry is exactly what they need for those situations.
Well, I think Lowry, if he was available for almost nothing, would help them. Where I push back on Howard's deal is the idea that as long as they don't trade Embiid, Simmons, or Harris, they'll be okay. That's provably not true because they've had those guys in the past and they have not been okay with that team. They have needed, good shooters around them. And yes, in your deal, they're not giving up Seth Curry, who's been a big part of what they do. But I just feel, Howard, and you talked to Daryl Morey about this, so you've got your finger on the pulse more than I do right now. I just feel like they've got a good thing kind of going here. They get stops defensively. They've got a dominant low post presence. They've got guys that shoot the threes. As much as I like Kyle Lowry, Howard, there has to be some kind of if it ain't broke, don't fix it thinking. That doesn't there?
Listen, if I thought you could get Kyle Lowry, pry him away from Toronto, and Masai Ujiri, we know, is a phenomenal negotiator when it comes to trades. Go ask the Knicks. If I thought I could pry loose Kyle Lowry without giving up Thibault, without giving up Danny Green, by all means, I would do it. But Lowry's contract is a large number. So part of this is you just got to be able to cobble together enough contracts to get there. And Danny Green's contract helps a lot in that regard. And if you're going to make it worth Toronto's while, they need either Thibault or a first-round pick, or possibly both. My proposal is probably maybe a little bit richer than the Sixers would prefer to do. But if you're Toronto, that is absolutely the minimum you're asking for, a young player and a pick.
Okay, so what we've established here is you two are terrible fake GMs, and I am great. So we'll walk away with that sentiment being out there.
But I'm winning the championship this year. But I'm winning the championship this year. You can have Thibault for tomorrow.
For more, check us out on SI.com.